What's going on, world? What's going on, Facebook? Listen Vision Live viewers, anybody hitting us up on the gram, wherever you are. We're recording live from the page right now, too. So what's good, Facebook? Welcome to the Nitty Gritty Show. Hello. It's your boy, Jay DeCosta.
It's your girl, Katniss.
I'm Tay Jordan.
And together we are...
The Nitty Gritty.
Yeah, so we got a great show lined up for you guys today. We're going to be talking about violence in the black community. An important conversation to have, I would say, especially in the wake of some of the things that's happened this week. We're happy to have on a good friend of mine from back in my military days, Tony Blay. He's still in shape. Me, I got to get some work to do, but we got Tony Blay here today. Excited to have him. He has a history in... he has a police background in the military, as well as some federal stuff he's done. And also he was the founder of the Gentlemen's Society, a great program that he started out there in New York, mentoring young men, teaching them how to dress, how to talk, how to walk, an important thing to do, especially with minority men. So we appreciate having him here today. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And of course, you know, at this time, we always do a How Was Your Week? So we'll start with Tay on the end. Tay, how was your week today?
My week was pretty. My week was pretty awesome. What did I do special? Nothing really was special. It just was a successful, productive week. So it's a good week.
I saw you shouting out brothers, so you must have been somewhere. You was like, oh my god, like I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I mean I went out yesterday. It was a party in Southeast. That was pretty fun. Just out enjoying the weather and stuff, and so all the melanin was popping of all shades. It was beautiful.
Nice. Tony, how was your week, sir?
Week is good. You know, I'm still getting used to the DC life. I'm fairly new here, so my week was good, working, and you know, just pretty much enjoying the weather. It's been beautiful. It's been hot, so can't complain.
Oh yeah. It definitely gets hot. This is that time of the year to get hot in DC.
Yeah.
And Katniss.
My week was extremely busy. I'm just happy that we're going into, you know, the 4th of July holiday, so I have a day off to just kind of rest, recuperate, decompress. That's what I'm looking forward to. So,
how was your week?
My week, you know, I'm Jay DeCosta, man. My week is always breezy. It's always good. No complaints over here. Actually had a great week though. Spent some time with the family. Was down in Nashville, Clarksville area. With the kids, with my parents, got to see my brothers, my little nieces. Aww. So that was all good. We had a good time. Every day was action packed. Some days I didn't even need to work out because, you know, kids will wear you out, man. Oh, yeah. Between sword fights and frisbees and footballs and just outside in the pool, whatever, man. Like it's a workout. Like I think Dad might have dropped 10 pounds. If I do that for like 8 weeks straight the way we were going at it, man, I'll be cutting this joint, you know? So no, it was a great week. Enjoyed it. It was a blessing.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
Definitely. Okay. And then, of course, you know, we always go into our to hell whiffs and our blessings and our blessing too. I'll start with the to hell whiffs first. I used to try to cut these down. I think now we just go ham. We just like knock out like 25 of them real quick in like 2 minutes. But to hell with Donald Trump. Like we really could say to hell with Donald Trump like every time I get up here, but I'm saying to hell with Donald Trump this time. You know, the way he went off on the young lady from Morning Joe, Mika. I can never say her last name right.
I forget her last name.
Yeah, but everybody know who Mika is. Like definitely to hell with that. And then also, you know, trying to cover up the fact that, you know, this investigation, they finding some real stuff with this connection to Russia. So it's like, you know, people stay woke. Pay attention. You know, he up there going ham on Twitter, but there's other stuff to pay attention to. So, yeah, to hell with number 45. LeVar ball haters, to hell with them too. Like,
oh yeah.
We always, on this show, we just had an episode about 2 episodes ago about fathers in the black community. And it's crazy because when fathers do their job, and this guy is doing an extreme job, not with just his 3 sons, but also with the young men that play on the team that he coaches. And I was happy that the coach of the Lakers was able to shout him out for that in a positive light. But how are you going to hate on a man for doing his job? So when fathers ain't there, it's like, oh, man, fathers ain't there. But now you got one doing an outstanding job, you know, and then they hating? Let's shut up. Like, for real, like, to hell with all y'all. Like, come on, the man is doing what he's supposed to do. Don't hate. You know, if y'all gonna hate on the ones that still don't want to be home, but don't hate on this brother. He's doing the good thing.
That's real.
Yeah, right. Also, to hell with Black Youngster and all that throwing money. Black Youngster is one of these rappers I think from Memphis. Yeah, he had a video on Instagram. I saw that, and it touched me to my core because this Bama's just throwing like bounds of money in the shower. Yeah, he in the shower just throwing money in his life.
Jay-Z just made a line. He had a line about that, talking about
like
IG with the phone to your ear. Our money don't talk like that. It's a disconnect.
Yeah. I heard that line, and I'm like, I swear Jay-Z worked this whole album on Wednesday, like, and just recorded it on Thursday. Seriously, like he hitting on some like current things, but like, come on, like these Bamas throwing their money around. If you're gonna really do something impressive, I hope he has a black bank account.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope he has some property. Yeah, I'm hoping he wants to donate to one of these HBCUs. I mean, if you're gonna be
don't
careless,
get your hopes up high.
Yeah, I know, but it's just the carelessness with the money. You know, like we got to do better. And we got to.
How is he making money? Is he like Instagram famous? Like, I don't
know. No, he's a rapper. Like, he's connected to Gucci rapper? Or somebody like
really?
that. Yeah. I mean, probably not. Yes. I mean, it's kind of like a. It's kind of like a Tennessee
looks like
thing,
he's getting paid though. He got some fans. I
mean, he's getting paid, but you know when they really got money because they don't flash it no more. I mean, look at Diddy, look at Jay, look at Dr. Dre. Just saying.
That's some true money right there.
Exactly. Mature money don't have to show money.
It's a disconnect.
And then also, so definitely like, I love the fact that Jay put out this new album, but I'm putting it on a to hell with because like, I let my Tidal subscription lapse. And then I heard this album was coming out, so I re-signed up, on Friday, thinking like, I'm about to hear this 444. And then I was like, I'll just go ahead and keep it going this time around. Couldn't listen to that joint.
You know what? Some people have problems like that.
It was one of those things.
I re-downloaded Tidal the day it dropped, but I'm a Sprint customer as well, so I don't know.
That's why, because you're a Sprint customer.
I was able to do it.
But I use a better network, and they went.
It wasn't too bad. I got the Jay-Z album. You don't.
That's what they was going for. That's why they gave him that money. So I mean, smart business move. But to hell with that, man. I'm trying to listen to that new Jay. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I found ways to hear some of it.
Wait a week until the exclusive period is going.
Yeah. And I'm gonna digest that thing. I can't wait. But then blessings too, and I'll go through it quick. Blessings to Dick Gregory. He has some amazing stuff he put out on Instagram about, just reminding people that the shooting that just occurred out there in Little Rock, this is not the first time that we've seen the massacre of our people. Unfortunately, this seems like this was done within the culture, but we've had the Tulsa, Oklahomas, we've had the events out there. I think he brought up Charlotte. I think it was a great post. So definitely shout out to Dick Gregory, always dropping knowledge. He's gonna probably be up here real soon too. So definitely blessings to Dick Gregory. Blessings to Juan and Amir, my children. They had their shirts on. They was repping hard, not just rocking the shirts. Like everywhere we go, people were asking like, "Oh, what is that?" They're like, "Oh, it's the Nitty Gritty Show. Watch and subscribe." Like they was like really hitting everybody up with the watch and subscribe, hitting them with the little Kool-Aid smiles. Like that's really proud of them. I didn't pay them nothing, but they got a free shirt. You know what I'm saying? Good job, kids. Good job. Definitely blessings to Mayor Landrieu for removing the Confederate statues out of New Orleans. I don't know if they actually talked about on Al Sharpton's show. That was a topic of conversation. It wasn't. Once again, not hitting headline news. Some important stuff going on this week, but I didn't even hear about that. That wasn't even put out there, but that was important. And I like the fact that him being a white man. That's how for our white brothers and sisters, we appreciate support. But the best way to support us isn't trying to necessarily jock our style or use slang that the people not as educated use, but when you make legislative decisions like that to help the black community, that's really helping, and that was amazing. That's something powerful to do for the community. That's really like being down, not just. Never mind, I'm not gonna go on.
And that's not even like being down for us. That's just being down for what's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody needs that frequent reminder of such a hurtful thing.
And then also blessings to the families, the victims of those in the Little Rock, the club shooting there. Definitely shout out to you, those who lost a loved one. That's from the Nitty Gritty. We stand with you guys in prayer, and it's a shame that no one is really speaking out on that. We speak out on the police shootings, and rightfully so, but at the same time, if it's people even in the culture just committing atrocities like that, like, come on, guys, like, the rap culture can't be that of a one that it has to be destructive to the lives of our people. So, definitely just blessing to those families, and we pray for you guys. Shout out to Jay-Z for the new album, and then also shout out to my dad. His band had their first gig in the area. It's a jazz band. Not a lot of jazz down there, so they're hoping to break into something new. They did an amazing job.
Where is this?
Very nice.
This was just outside the Nashville area, going towards Clarksville.
Okay.
So they did it in Liberty Park. It was really nice. I actually threw some videos on Facebook, but
check 'em out.
they did it really good. My dad's a bass player. He's who taught me. If I was a little better at it, maybe I'd be as good as him. But their band did an amazing job. So I was really proud of them. And they did a good job. But anyways, that's enough of the intros. We're gonna jump into the show. Of course, we're talking about violence in the black community. I have a video I want to play. This is actually highlighting some more stuff with the cop in St. Louis that was shot. I don't know if you guys heard about that. So we're gonna play that clip for you, and then we're gonna just jump into this discussion. Let's go.
Let's go.
Well, Mike, late this afternoon, we talked with that wounded off-duty officer's attorney Rufus Tate. He says that the officer walked outside of his home where the incident ended, identified himself as an officer, and followed the officer's commands.
We have a police officer standing in his own yard who's outside because he hears the commotion, sees the car crash in front of his neighbor's house right in the same block, and he comes out, is in a conversation with some of the officers that are on the scene pursuing the stolen car, and he winds up getting shot.
The attorney for the wounded 38-year-old African-American St. Louis police officer is making strong statements after police investigators say they shot one of their own.
This happens to be the first time in the national discourse that we're aware of a black professional or a law enforcement officer himself being shot or treated as an ordinary black guy on the street. And we can see that this is a real problem.
Detectives say it all unfolded around 10 last night when the license plate recognition system in downtown St. Louis spotted a car stolen from Maryland Heights last week. Officer used spike strips to stop the vehicle in North St. Louis. The three people in the car fired shots at officers. Police pursued the vehicle. The vehicle then stopped near Park and Astra, where more shots were fired.
Why are they chasing a stolen car all over town in these high-speed chases? They're always going to wind up in some kind of crash.
We're told the off-duty officer who lives in the area came outside of his home armed with his department-issued weapon and was ordered to the ground by two officers. The officers recognized the off-duty officer and told him to stand and walk toward them. Meanwhile, a 36-year-old white male officer just arriving on the scene did not recognize the off-duty officer. He told city police investigators he feared for his safety, so he fired a shot hitting the off-duty officer in the arm.
And in the police report that you have so far, there's absolutely no description of any type of threat he perceived. And so we have a real problem with that. But it also presents a bigger problem that's been a course of national discussion for the past 2 years. That is this perception that a black man is automatically to be feared.
Now, the off-duty officer that was shot in the arm is expected to make a full recovery. Meanwhile, a 17-year-old male suspect was also shot and wounded by officer. He's also expected to make a full recovery. Two suspects are in custody while one remains at large. The attorney for that wounded officer says he expects the St. Louis City Police Department to do a thorough and fair investigation. Live in downtown St. Louis, Kelly Hoskins, News 11.
So, yeah, that's crazy. And it's sad. A lot of people don't even know that this happened this week. It hasn't been like headline news.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't want to talk about it too much because now they actually, this case, the victim is still alive to talk more about what happened, unlike, the previous shootings by cops. And I guess to kind of start this conversation off, and actually, I probably want to hear from Tony first as being an officer. I mean, you got to watch the video. You seen all that was happening. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, just, because you work on the other side, so you get to see both sides. You're a minority brother, right? But then at the same time, being trained properly, the military way on it, what was some of your thoughts when you first watched that?
Just hearing it itself, the training that I'm thinking that the officer was not as experienced as others. See, in our training, it's kind of like every scenario is never the same. You can never prepare for something in real life, so no 2 days are the same. So him coming onto that scene and that gentleman that was coming out the car, all he has in his mind is that tunnel vision of we have a suspect that's armed and that's what he's thinking of, So with that, I mean, it's a tough scenario that he's facing right now because of the fact where the scene was pretty much, from what I've heard from the news station itself, and the scene was secured. Everything was fine. The first two officers on the scene as the first responders, they had everything taken care of. he should have just stood down and got more information to see what was going on. You know, in my personal opinion, based off of the stuff I just saw. You know, there just shouldn't have been any of coming out that tunnel vision, just going right to the lethal force. A gentleman that obviously seemed to be under control. If other two police officers that were already on scene were content with what's going on, or had him in custody, or you know, already figured out what the scene was, he should have just stood down and paid attention. You know, I think he just came out the car just focused with a tunnel vision, and some sad reality that somehow some of our job is. You know, you go to the scene and you have certain information you have in your head, and you just go 100%. You know, like Drake said, you know, 0 to 100 real quick. That's pretty much about it. You go 0 to 100 real quick the minute you step out that patrol car, and you go to the scene, and you go into the fire pretty much. So that's the only thing I can see that happened to this police officer. Sad to say that the situation happened there, but thank God it was just an arm. It's not a lethal case where the other police officer had died. You know, it shouldn't have happened in the beginning, from like I said, based off of what I've seen. But yeah, it's just one of those things where he's in a bad spot.
Yeah, and I mean, because even when I looked at it, I was like, you know, I understand the first two if they had accidentally shot him, right?
Yeah.
Because they just got out of a shootout. So, you know, your blood is boiling a little heavy. I mean, we seen that in Iraq, right? Yeah. So I get it. I understand what's going on in your mind. So if one of the first two did, it still would have sucked, but then it would have been like, I think they'd be able to make a better case for him.
Yeah.
If somebody had shot him out the first two. But the situation, like you said, it seemed like it was controlled. And the fact that they still shot him after the fact, it's like,
yeah,
you know, he pulls up, like, you know, what's going on? You know, everybody's like in this whole scare narrative. And, you know, I don't know. Like, I guess I want to hear from my sisters. But yeah. I guess one thing that I think is like training. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess we need to train people better. Yeah. Because... And, you know, and I want y'all thoughts on this, but oddly enough, I know military police, they do like 5 months of total training, day in, day out. But, you know, civilian police, and these are where we're hearing these situations happen, they do like, I think 500, maybe 460 hours of training before they get out there. You need like 1,500. Last time I checked, in D.C., you need 1,500 hours to get a barber's license. To be armed with clippers and some scissors, you need 1,500 hours. But to get a gun and a badge, 400 hours.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. It is crazy. My whole thing is I'm kind of tired of the narrative that, you know, cops that are not familiar with the black community are always fearful. My thing is, if you're going to police a community or be a police peer, you need to get in touch with various cultures so that you can alleviate this quote unquote fear. And I don't feel like that's a legitimate excuse anymore because we've heard it so often. It's really annoying, and I feel like at this point in time, it's time for somebody who step up who can make legislative decisions and really hold them accountable. Because I feel like every time you come into a situation and you see a black man, you should not have the thought that I'm fearful for my life. I mean, this has been going on since Emmett Till. You know what I'm saying? And people have been getting away with these kind of murders against our people. So my whole thought process is that, you know, maybe they need to do a cultural competency class in addition to training as a police officer, whereas they go to various communities, get familiar with people. I mean, one thing about our culture, we're very expressive. We talk with our hands. Sometimes people consider the way we talk very aggressive, and they take that to be threatening, but it's not threatening. That's just how we talk. But if you knew that, you wouldn't be fearful. You would be like understanding of it. And when you do good police work, you're familiar with the community that you're policing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would definitely co-sign that. I agree. I do think there needs to be some type of retraining, rebriefing on policing the communities, particularly in the areas that the police work is being done and where the issues are arising. But for this particular video, I took issue, first of all, like you mentioned, when we were watching the video, like the whole verbiage and everything, and it's like, you know, well, he thought he was an ordinary black. So, well, like, for him shooting an ordinary black had it been okay? What made the off-duty officer not ordinary is because he had a badge and because he was the law. So I think that mindset within itself, the way that we value blue lives over every other life, is the issue. But for this brother to, you know, get shot over something so stupid, like, it just goes to show you that I do think that, I don't know, and you're the expert, I should ask you this. I think that they deal with this whole concept of, I don't know if police are trained this way, but it seems as though police are way more proactive policing rather than reactive policing. And I understand that, you know, I want to shoot you before you shoot me. I understand that it's fight or flight, and somebody got to go home, and the cop wanted to be him. But I feel like a lot of instances, a lot of police officers come into situations with fire, and it's not even fire there already. And that puts, I think, civilians on the defensive, and it's like, you fearing for me, I fear for you. Like, you don't want to come to the car clutching your gun. I'm unarmed. So if anything, I'm at fear for my life. So I do think it needs to be addressed as far as, like, if officers are going to police certain areas, then I don't know what they need to do to, you know, sensitivity training or what it is, but something needs to be addressed, because the way that it's working right now is not working at all.
No, I totally understand. I mean, you guys bring up definitely good topics, even more so with the training itself. Being from military and then also on a different aspect of law enforcement, I see different types of training because I've been through different academies with them. And with that said, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, this training was good, but this one was a lot better, and I understood it a lot better, and I did different scenarios of a lot better, you know, rather than a certain other training that I did, and I was like, that was it. Like, you know, it seemed like I just got here, or it seemed like there was so much more I had to do my job, accomplish it, you know, the right way. So definitely for so much as training, there needs to be a reevaluation on all the training on all local police and municipalities that do law enforcement, because of that reason, where the training is not as extensive and in depth as it should be, especially dealing with communities that there's a high crime in those communities. And also jumping back on your topic, there is such a thing to where I know NYPD, they started redoing some of the older police officers that have been on the force, reevaluation, just because of the fact to where you go through the academy for 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, whatever it is, and you're automatically a police officer. When you're doing 15 years, you kind of get misplaced, and you also get laxed in your job and your position, so, or you're bored of it. So there's not so much turnover in the sense to where, yeah, you can do different options within still policing, but yet, you know, stay current, stay focused, and never have that ease. I'm not sure if you guys remember a while ago in New York City, the guy, one of the NYPD officers who got hit with I think it was a hacksaw or like some kind of axe or something like that.
I remember that story.
Something like that. It happened about a year or two ago. And the thing is, we're in a position where we can never let our guard down like that, you know. And not that I'm saying that officer did. I'm just saying, like in the military, they always teach you, any job in the military, 360 degrees security, you know. And in that sense, it's like, yeah, you feel comfortable at your job, feel relaxed at it, but also never put your guard down, because you wear a uniform, you wear a badge, and you have a gun, but the minute you let yourself go, that's when something's going to happen, you know, and that's what you don't want. And I think some of my other training has taught me that even more so within the military and also the other law enforcement. My personal my personal beliefs as far as, I know you had something else as far as being more connected to the communities. A lot of police officers nowadays in local municipalities and police departments, they just stay in their patrol cars. You know, there's no more walking the beat. So as far as learning your community and learning the people that's in your community, that's a whole disconnect right there. You know, I know back in the day, before my time, there was cops walking up and down the blocks, you know, and you talk to them, you say hi to them, and yeah, you had a certain respect for them as well, you know, but you understood who they were, you know who they are by face and everything. It's none of this, the car drove by and that was it. I remember being an account manager for a security company in New York City, and I would call for PD, and they would just do drive-bys, and that's it. And I'm like, we're here, we're right here, like I need you right here, and they would just do a drive-by, and that's it. And they say, yeah, our guys went there. Like, no, they drove by, that was it, you know. That's so for the cop to actually walk the beat again, to learn the people in the community, and like, you're right, this is who we are. We're not all just one way, you know, monotone, you know. I'm Puerto Rican in that sense for the most part, and we talk loud. You know, like I'm trying to calm myself down just because, you know, I know we're here, but normally I talk loud. That's just my persona, who I am. But to somebody else who has no culture background on that, he's thinking I'm being aggravated, I'm coming off too aggressive to him, so on and so forth. So he's going to take that the wrong way, you know, and his reaction to that's going to be different, and it's all his perspective. You know, police, we have a 20/20 hindsight where it's called based off the totality of circumstances, because nobody's going to be physically in your position, you know, at that time and that situation. So we take that in consideration when things do go off and the scenario does happen, and we react to it accordingly, you know, because like I said from before, no two situations are going to be the same. So it's always based off of that, and that's where I think we need to start focusing more of the training, more getting cultured, more getting out the patrol car and actually getting into our communities and learning about them and people within them. So that 2020 hindsight to like, okay, it'll drop because of the fact that we know that this person is loud, or we know in this area they're allowed to group. It's cool, it's not a problem. They don't mean no harm. They're not coming up too aggressive. But I have a better understanding culturally wise.
Mm-hmm.
I think though, even aside from the sensitivity training or retraining, I think that the loopholes in the law needs to be addressed as well. I think this whole case of probable cause and, you know, officers being able to be justified for their actions because they felt at fear for their lives is an issue. I think that that's an easy out, and it's 9 times out of 10, 9.999 times out of 10 is always going to go in their favor. And I think that's unfortunate because it's like your word against mine, and it's like the officer at any point, you know, whether you got your hands up, whether you got your back to the officer, they can always say that they fear for their life, and I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah,
that and I also want to talk about, you know, my problem is how much of arrest and shootings and what they call padding the books go back to or lead to the prison system, because I know that it's a business. I know that it's a moneymaker. So sometimes I wonder, do you have to patrol a certain community because you're obligated to? And if so, who's making these decisions? You know, what does it come down to? Because there's a big implication around this whole, you know, prison, legislative, and the community and police. Like, I think sometimes people work their jobs and they're told this is what they're supposed to do, but behind closed doors, there's really a targeted focus as the reason why they want them to do that, because it's a moneymaker. You know, prison system it's a business.
Yeah, and I would like to chime in right there because it kind of segues to the next. There's 2 videos I'm going to play back to back, and it kind of segues to that. And before I play them, because me and my dad were talking about this, we were watching the breaking news. It was Saturday when the shooting, when they were reporting about the nightclub shooting. And one of the things that I think the mayor of the city said was, you know, we got to make sure we get the guns out of the hands of the people they don't belong in. And so he didn't say any. And then the first thing he said was, you know, he wants to work with parole and probation. So it's kind of like, okay, you're already targeting people who've been convicted or something, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
We know there's a higher conviction rate on blacks. So then when you see the stats, they're a little skewed. And that's why I want to play the stats, because you see what's driving certain people to make certain actions. But then I think the conversation is a little deeper than that. And we're about to get down to the nitty gritty of that as well. So if you could play those next 2 videos for me, the second and third video, play them back to back.
National Crime Victimization Survey in 2010, 62,593 blacks were the victims of white violence. During that same year, 320,082 whites were the victims of black violence. That's 5 times as many violent attacks, but that number is misleading, since the black and white populations are not the same size. When 38 million black Americans commit 5 times as many violent crimes on 197 million whites as they receive, what you discover is that black perpetrators violently assault white victims 25 times more frequently. And when it comes to a specific kind of violent crime, aggravated assault, the number of black on white crimes is 200 times higher than white on black crimes. Oh, there's an epidemic of racial violence in America. Reporter and author Colin Flaherty has taken a cold, clear-eyed view of the statistics that don't make the news because they're suppressed by the news. He reports, for example, again in 2010, the National Crime Victimization Survey reported approximately 13,000 black-on-white rapes and 39,000 black-on-white robberies, both violent crimes. The statistics show that the number of white-on-black rapes and violent robberies were so small that they had to be rounded to the nearest whole number, and that whole number was 0. According to the National...
and that kind of case goes on all the time. And let me tell you that even FBI discriminates against European Americans in the way they report crime statistics. If you have a minute, I'll give you the example.
Sure, that's fine.
All right. The FBI has a classification of perpetrator of a crime and victim of a crime. So pay attention to this difference. They classify perpetrators of crimes as white, black, or other. 90% of Hispanics are put into the white perpetrator category. So any crime committed by Hispanic, 90% of the time will appear as a white crime. Now the FBI does know the difference between Hispanic and white because on the victim side of it, they have black victims, white victims, and Hispanic victims, so they know the difference. This is what strange thing can happen. They can call it an interracial crime when a Hispanic assaults another Hispanic, because 90% of the time the Hispanic perpetrator will be called white and the victim is Hispanic. So you see, that's clear discrimination. I do not like it. It was not the basis of the laws that's changed in 1954, first with the Brown versus something desegregation decision. That was each person to be judged individually.
What, and I'm asking this to play devil's advocate a little bit. What is your response when people see this and, you know, see things like who you call Southern Poverty Law Center a hate group itself?
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
When you see these organizations like that.
I played those videos because, for one, they ticked me off when I watched them, because you can see how, and it segues from the comment that you had made earlier, you know, Katniss, but you see how the stats are used. They could be used against us. So therefore, you know, when they say, because like I did all kind of research looking at, like, you know, who commits more crimes, you know, other races, and everywhere you look, they say, you know, blacks are doing it. But then the issue is, for it to be considered a crime, there has to be like a conviction, actual conviction somewhere. And the issue is that, okay, with the conviction is the rates, is that everybody knows that blacks get convicted at a higher rate than whites. So when you do that additional study, you realize, okay, people are getting, for one, blacks are getting locked up at a higher rate, because more often they're saying, I think it was 65% of the time whites are let go on simple arrest. Or even like if it's a situation where they go into a home where a husband and wife are fighting, or even physical, they're more 65% of the time they're more likely to let the white man just go to a different place and stay. Whereas it's almost a guarantee that the black man or the Latino man is going to get locked up, right? So then when it comes to reporting at this level, well, it doesn't reach the report. So of course it's going to look like blacks are being more violent or committing more crimes, because the whites are not being sent through the criminal justice system at the same rate as blacks do.
Right.
And that's a situation to touch on. And I guess, you know, when I look at the statistical data, I guess the conversation just goes into, you know, legislation, and like who we start talking to correct that legislation. And so, you know, when we start looking at the violence, we have to start changing the narration of, you know, what's really going on in our communities. And so I guess, you know, I want to hear from the ladies first on, you know, what would your ideas be as to, you know, maybe what we need to do to start changing the narrative so we can just start changing some things legislatively.
Well, first I want to say, I think that how we can definitely prove the stats wrong is based upon social media and videos. I mean, you guys do realize, because of the power of social media, that's the only reason why we're even having this conversation. I mean, now the police, people are looking at the police and they have been exposed because people are being able to post, you know, these killings and the shootings. But I think, you know, one way we can change legislation, I think, is just, we keep saying it all the time, every show, but really education. Like, if you live in a certain community, you should know who your senator is. You should know who your councilman is, because that's how you're going to get effective change. You need to be able to go to those town hall meetings. You need to be, you know, working together in the community, talking about what things you want to see happen. You know, and I feel like a lot of times we don't even know who's in charge, so we don't even know what kind of laws they're passing. So when laws change, the community isn't privy to those changes, and then when things come up, that's why there are more arrests. But if we're privy to, you know, jurisdictions, laws, you know, what they're setting in place, and I think people would be feel a little more protected, because they'll be a little more knowledgeable about what's going on in their community.
Yeah, I definitely would agree. I think that what you said, educating yourself, is the most essential thing. You know, we should know when bills are passed, what they mean, you know, how to read a bill, why it's important to read a bill, because these things affect our daily lives. I think a lot of us look at it like, you know, we make jokes on social media on number 45, but it's like, he's actually, like, things are actually happening in the world that we actually need to actually analyze and review and educate ourselves on. And it's not, it goes more, it's deeper than like a joke. Outside of the education though, I think that, you know, we need lobbyists to lobby on our behalf as well. And we need to find out who those lobbyists are right now and get behind them. And like these things that's infecting us, such as like police work and stuff like that, we actually need to if we say we care, we need to do the things to show that we care, to implement change on ourselves. It's one thing to, vote and, get out and, go to the polls and stuff like that and elect officials, but it's also another thing to actually, do what you can and control the controllables. And I think part of that is educating yourself and locking arms with, people that's trying to implement change.
Yeah, and then Tony, I guess the question I would have for you directly, because I think you will understand the culture within the police segment is, do you feel, and I think Katrina alluded to this question earlier as well, but do you feel that certain areas are targeted more so, or do you think that more arrests do happen within the Black and Latino communities more so than the white communities, like when you have like situations? I know no two situations are alike, but do you feel that when you have similar situations that you see more of an arrest rate with Blacks and Latinos versus white? Yeah.
Well, I know police departments and their jurisdictions and the areas they cover, it all is based on crime in that area. It's not based, well, there's a bunch of minorities in this area, we're going to just put a whole bunch of cops there and see how many people can get. It's all based on statistics of, okay, there's a high crime rate here, we need to flood this area with police people, policemen and everything. And I'm thinking about your question. I'm trying to just forget it. And, so basically, with that, it's one of those things to where it's not that they're targeting us, saying, hey, there's minorities over here, let's go get them. It's one of those things to where you understand in minority groups, areas, neighborhoods, ghettos, projects, everyone considered as high crime rates in those areas. So initially, they're gonna put more policemen and women there to patrol just to calm it down. It's not so much we're going to get them and see what we can get out of them. In the white communities, I didn't know if you was raising your hand or not.
We pull the mic closer. I was trying to tell you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, pull closer to your face. Sorry.
Gotcha.
I was trying to get you low key.
So it's just one of those things to where, they put the police where it's needed, whether it's a high crime rate or not, whether who lives there or not. I don't think that more or less matters who lives there or not. I just think that it's based off of crime rates, and... I did forget the question.
Oh, it's cool. Oh, yeah. But I did want to say something real quick off response to what you said. I understand that, you got these areas, high crime areas, but I think at the same time, like, okay, you're a New York guy, so you're familiar with this, I was about to say stand your ground. Not stand your ground. You're familiar with the stop and frisks.
Yes.
So, with that being said, I understand, like, you have these high crime areas, but at the same time, I do think it is quite targeted, racially targeted. I understand, like, say, for instance, I live in East New York, which is a high crime area, right? So, with that being said, I'm not a criminal, though. So, me walking down the street, I shouldn't be able to just be, like, stopped and frisked because I live in a high crime area. Like, I understand, like, police has police work to do. Yeah. But at the same time, Shantae got Shantae work to do, and I would like to not be, like, a part of. Exactly. Yeah. And I think... that within itself, and the fact that New York had that on its books for so long, is just like, and the fact that it, the mayor and everybody tried to justify it, and I think I understand what you're saying, like, it's for a reason, but it's like, I feel like police work should be done successfully without impending on other people.
It can, and I'm familiar with the program itself, and it did bring down a lot of crime in certain areas because of the fact to where. But
did it really, though? Because it turned up a lot of arrests, but it wasn't even made.
It's not so much the arrest itself. It's almost like the don't ask, don't tell thing policy, where they can hand in a weapon and say, listen, this is just where we found it. We're just handing it in. That goes back to, like, the whole gun situation in a sense where we just need to get the guns off the streets, because at the end of the day, guns are harmless. It's the hands that they're in that makes them dangerous, So we can get the more guns off the street that's unaccountable for, that's nobody's claiming to, then that's better for us because that's one less we have to worry about, So it's not so much of, who we're looking for and targeting in a sense to say, we're just going to, everybody on this block, we're going to stop and frisk them. It's who's going to look suspicious enough, because if I walk down a block and somebody's giving me an eye that where they look like they're doing something.
That's all subjective,
we
though,
have
right?
something to where it's like, okay, they look like they're doing something. They look like they might have came from a crime or committed a crime or about to commit a crime. We can stop and ask them. And it's all consensual. It's all, you know, you can leave at any time. You're not detained, you're not arrested or anything of that nature. You're just a simple conversation. If you give off signs like there's more to the story than what you're telling us, then yes, then it can become into investigative detention depending on what you tell us and so on and so forth. And then we'll let you know exactly what's going on right there at that time. And then now, yeah, you can't leave because now you're showing signs that, yeah, you just came from mugging somebody, robbing somebody. And it's also the information that we have that comes over the wire that's like, okay, we may look like we're stopping and frisking everybody, but you never know. If something came over the radio, say, hey, we have a suspect, he looks like this, and this. All right, cool. We're going to be looking out for somebody that fits that description.
I just got a quick question, and I'm going to leave you alone. But I'm just so excited we got an officer on the show, so I'm just curious to get into the mind of an officer. So you're an officer of color. So with that being said, you have two different perspectives as to how you approach or, you know, police work. So when you say things like, you know, when a person, you know, probably looks like they coming from a crime or heading to a crime, or, you know, you want to prevent that or, you know, stop the guy. With that being said, with your lens, what is it that you're seeing? What is it that, how does a person look like they're leaving a crime or heading to a crime? Like, what is it that, in terms of like fitting a description, like what exactly does that look like? I guess is what I'm trying to understand.
Well, you ever had that feeling? You're on the highway, doing a little bit more than the speed limit, and you see the cop and you're like, oh shoot, and you slow down. That's the feeling we're looking for.
So it's like fishy behavior type.
It's that fishy behavior. I use that because I do the same thing as a cop. I'm like, oh shoot, I'm speeding. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's that exact behavior we're looking for, to where you don't mean to do something, but you did something and we caught it. You know. So from there, that gives us the right to come here and talk to you and ask you a couple questions to hopefully lead into something more than what you're gonna actually come out and tell us. Because I don't know any criminal that came out to a cop and be like, hey, by the way, I just did this. I'm sorry for it. You know. So we, as every police officer, has to be an investigator if you walk in the beat, you know.
Right. So with that being said, in that, you know,
and it's also what you're wearing. I don't want to cut you off, but sometimes it's what somebody's wearing. You know, they can have a soda can in their pocket, and over a long shirt in their jeans. We don't know if that's a gun or not. If you keep playing with it, we don't have to wait for you to pull out a gun to shoot us.
I'm just trying to think from another lens, say for instance a white officer's lens. Could they have stereotypes in their head already, like, and they're already on edge, and that could be a result of like you got these such tense police, like on edge type officers, because they already have in their head that 9 times out of 10 a black male is a threat. So do you think that, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything like that, I'm just, do you think that sometimes they already looking at things from a stereotypical, because everybody's human, we all have our biases, our prejudices and stuff like that, and because you have a badge doesn't necessarily mean you suspend that. So that's my question. Do you think some officers can already have these preconceived negative notions about
I can say, honestly, there may be some, but that leads us back into what we talked about before, as far as having the officer get out the patrol car and walk the beat to learn the community, to feel more at ease with the people he's around, rather than somebody that has no experience, fresh out of college, or just made the cut of age and made the patrol or made the academy, and he's never seen a black person, you know. So to put him in a community just full of black people, he's probably gonna be nervous. He's like, I've never seen one in real life. I've met this person. That's cool, I work with him, but I'm not familiar with everybody else around here. So, of course, he's going to be of edge, on edge, any little situation he gets. You know, any call he gets and pull over somebody, oh, my God, they might have a gun. This is what I hear through social media, through the news and everything like that. That's how they portray it, which is totally wrong. But for this gentleman, this young patrolman, he could be like the guy that we saw in the video, as far as just coming out like, oh, I'm on the scene, I'm just gonna come out and.
So therefore, it would be easy to justify. Well, you know, I understand with the guy, like he had fear for his life. That's understandable
for him in that scenario.
Yeah, because it's
I can see it on his point of view where that. But then again, I don't personally fearing for your life. That's circumstantial, you know, especially in that case itself. I mean, like I said, seeing it for the first time, the video. I mean. Even I know, as you know, I don't have 30, 40 years on the force, but I have enough common sense to say, okay, I have 2 PD guys already there. Yeah. Maybe things are already calm and collective. You know, let me just relax, take the back seat, and see what's going on.
As an officer, do you think he was justified for that?
I can't say that. I gotta leave that up to the courts and what plays out. Right. From what I've seen, I mean, it's gonna be a tough case to prove that what he did, he was justified for it. You know.
I have a question, just one question. I know that a lot of times in you said. You know, high crime areas is where they put more police in those areas. I know a lot of times I feel like high crime is synonymous with poverty. And I'm wondering if, you know, because there is poverty, people obviously they do things to help in their mind, their situation. So I'm wondering if that were to happen or be transferred into a predominantly, let's say, affluent community. To me, I feel like it still wouldn't be the same because those people be able to afford lawyers. Yeah. And I feel like if you guys did implement the whole stop and frisk rule in that area, it wouldn't go down. I feel like they would not have it. But because this is the area of people who are uneducated, it's able to be implemented. And I just don't think that's right or fair. And I'm just wondering, do you think that having access to affluence can affect the way the police create jurisdictions and laws for certain communities?
On a political standpoint, it might not. You know, I'm not that's probably above my pay grade to even answer that question for you. My personal opinion itself, certain police departments, they might have quotas, they might not have quotas. There's certain things they got to reach. Being that it's in the poverty section, they know for sure we're going to get something rather than somebody that, yeah, they might do it, but they're in the house, or they just know how to go about it a better way than people in poverty, you know. So in that case, for somebody new in the force who's trying to make a good impression and he wants to go to those high value areas and get as many people he wants to get, just to say, you know what, hey, I got my first arrest, I got my first felony conviction, because it's easier to attain that way, you know. But on a political standpoint and some of that nature, as far as placing that way for certain reasons, that's out of I don't even know, you know.
But I do have a video I want to play. I'm gonna play the 5th video. We don't have time for that 4th one, but let's play that 5th video. I think there's a mindset that starts at an early age, and I want to hit on this because we are talking about violence in the black community, and the only violence in the black community is not happening as a result of the police. It is happening within, but I think the mindset, whether it's the police or us, on us, it starts at a very early age and how we think of ourselves, and that's why I want to play this video. Very popular video. You guys are going to know it when you see it, but let's go ahead and play that 5th video.
It's 40 minutes long. Is it just the beginning?
No, the 5th one.
That's my 5th one. Is it the...
Then it might be the 4th one then.
Okay, the white privilege one?
The video with the kids, the doll test video. Did that get sent to you?
Tell me, it's not 40 minutes?
Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me?
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That
one. Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll?
I can only imagine. And he's probably one of them.
I like those videos. I mean, they're sad to watch. They're hard to watch, honestly,
Yeah.
those videos.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, there's the whole extended series on that where they have a young white girl, and she's, you know, but she's saying the same thing that the black kids are saying. And I think the reason I wanted to bring this up, and I wanted to kind of end on this note, we still got a little time left, but I kind of end the conversation here because I think at an early age, blacks, Americans, period, white, Puerto Rican, Asian, at an early age, we're associating with ugliness and violence and threats with people of darker tone. And you know, when you play the doll test anywhere, I mean, there's multiple out there, and they also the same thing. Anytime someone is of a darker hue, even in other countries, there's it's just that ugliness and everything's associated with that. And the media has done a job of creating that narrative. And unfortunately, I feel like we further that narrative sometimes, even in our own community, with some of the things we celebrate. And we definitely have to change the things we celebrate. I mean, the white community, they have a way of trying to like they won't openly criticize themselves too hard, but like even the Marilyn Mansons, they went after them. I mean, we can't act like that didn't happen. They went after Eminem because of the stuff he was saying in his lyrics, you know. So you can't say that people don't ban against even the white artists when they do it. But we definitely need to change. It has to start here first, and we just have to change the way we look at each other. Because I think it was said last week, someone was like, they was crossing the street and they seen some black folks coming up and they was like holding the purse.
And people agree with them.
Yeah. And people agree with them. And I don't agree with that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but I'm military trained, so I don't feel like no one's that big of a threat. You know what I'm saying? But
we do have to change the narrative, and I think that it starts with loving ourselves, because you're absolutely right. I feel like people associate being unattractive with a darker hue or skin tone. People associate violence with, you know, African Americans, and I feel like that narrative has to change. But I think the only way it's going to change is when we as a people, I mean, I think the onus is on the American people to change the narrative, but I feel like they're not going to do it. So I think as a people, if we do it or take the initiative to start doing it first and start showing people and like kind of pushing back, like, no, being dark is beautiful. No, we are not violent, and like start pushing back on the narratives, I think that hopefully it will matriculate, you know, into mainstream society and people will pick it up. Yeah. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, you know, we have to have different viewpoints on how we, you know, view each other and how we feel among one another. I think that, like I said, it starts at home, and you mentioned why from an early age we're already conditioned that, you know, like white is right and dark is bad, and darkness is associated with like devil, demonic, evil, and whiteness is associated with happiness, right? And so I think that these messages that we get from an early age kind of already distorts our reality and what's actually real, particularly about ourselves. I think to change that, though, we have to start loving ourselves, and whether we need to do positive affirmations in the mirror or what we need to do, but we need to look at ourselves in a better light than what we do. And I think until you love yourselves, nobody else is going to love you. So I think that, like I said, it starts with home. So from parents putting more responsibility on the parents, putting more responsibility on our teachers, and putting more responsibility on everybody that makes up the community, because not enough of us care about the next man or the next man's children, and it takes a village to raise a child. And if we start with the youth early, then, you know, maybe once they get to like their teenage years, their high school years, their early adulthood years, then we won't have so many riffraff and, you know, there's negative things that we have going on in our communities, because the help is not going to come from the top. The help is going to have to come from within. Yeah. So, and I think until we realize that and actually do our part, then, you know, our circumstances is going to be what they are.
And also, Tony, this is for you too, because you kind of touch on that. I know we've talked more about your experience with, you know, law enforcement, but you also, as we mentioned earlier, you had founded the Gentlemen's Society. Yeah. What's some of the things that you taught the young men out there in New York about how they should deal with, like, male bravado? You know, a lot of times people want to knuckle up and fight, but I know that you taught your young men to dress nice. I mean, even here today, you still suited and booted, you know, spiffy. So what, if you could just share with our viewers, because I still want to highlight on that aspect of you, because a lot of officers just do their law enforcement, but you actually give back to the community, and I think that's a key difference. So if you could just share with us some of the things that you told those kids about, like just how to deal with each other, how they conduct themselves.
The Gentlemen's Society was basically a nonprofit organization I started a few years back, and it was just in my hometown where I wanted to start it at, and it's just teaching young men exactly what you said, to basically think of the bigger picture, you know. Instead of going out there and fighting and everything like that, go out there and fight with your words, you know, which also brought me back to you had said the word legislative, which what you talked about. And essentially, if you fight with your words, maturely, respectfully, and accordingly, and a time and place for everything, like my mom had always taught me, you can make so much of a bigger difference than it is going out there and knuckling up with somebody because he said you look ugly or he took your girlfriend. You know what I mean? One of the things I always taught them was to always succeed in life. What you wanted to do, just be great at it. You know, as a mentor, you're not a teacher, you're not a parent. I gave most of my kids advice, you know, because of my personal experiences that I went through, where just coming from a middle class family, my mom working 3 jobs, 3 kids, and, you know, going out there and making the best of it, because she wants the best for me. You know, she wanted me to be better than what she was, you know, and I want to better my kids so that they can do better than what I've done, you know. And essentially, it goes back to just the home itself, where the parenting has to be parenting. You know, a lot of families out there, especially in these neighborhoods, their kids themselves having kids, you know, so they don't have that respectful upbringing. And my mom used to beat me for a living, and I love her every day for that, you know. At the time, I hated it, but I love it now because it made me into the person I am, you know. And so what I used to teach these kids is, yes, go out there, dress as if you're going to conquer the world every day.
Dress for success.
Go out there, exactly. Go out there and speak to people that's in positions you want to be in, you know. Be around a crowd of friends is positive, you know. Yes, I have family members, great friends that are out there hustling and selling drugs and everything. That's great. Our relationships are far few and in between now because of the position I'm in now. But that doesn't mean I disconnect them. I talk to them once in a while, but they understand my position and I understand theirs, and I respect that, you know. And the thing is to where I want more for myself. And I've seen a lot more guys in their shoes in jail and shot and dead than I do a lot of guys that I see in my shoes with good families, healthy backgrounds, good upbringing. You know what I mean? So always know what you want for yourself and always want more for yourself. And that's things that we taught them. And there's always added things. I'm a big fan about the resume, and that was my motto, you know, add it to the resume, add it to the resume, you know. And at 17, 18 years old, these kids are putting so much down because they've done community service with me. They've done lectures. They've done certain events. And we used to work for autism. We worked for cancer. And we worked for cerebral palsy, some of the walks out there in New York. So those things, and I would tell them, talk to these kids. You know, you think you had it bad because mommy didn't buy you the bike. Well, this guy's, he can't remember his name, you know. Or this lady, she's been fighting Alzheimer's for years. You know, she can barely remember her husband, and she's been with 30 years. Talk to her. See her struggles and everything like that, and they would have a better understanding of their life. Like, wow, it's not that bad in my shoes. You know, other people have it worse. And from there, I know some of them have graduated already. Others I just lost contact with because I've been away for so long. But yeah, you know, it's not so much of the impact I wanted. It's just it initially starts with just planting the seed, planting the idea that there's more out there than what's around you. Once you do that, then it's like I told them, you're here right now for the hour that I have you. And that's it. The minute you walk out those doors, you're your own man. You make your own decisions. You know, I can only give you and guide you along the way and show you options. But it's up to you to make that mature decision and take the tools that's in your toolbox and go about and doing it, you know. And that's pretty much what we did.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And I mean, I think everybody's agreeing. It's not often that we agree on anything on this show, totally. But I think on that, I think we definitely agree when it talks about the way to help stop some black violence in our community. We have to do that because we have to start, you know, actually talking down on the gang culture. Gang culture as what it is now in the 2017, it's a violent culture. It's not really about uplifting the community. Maybe back in the 50s, it did that at some point, but it's been corrupt. It was corrupted as of the 70s. And after that, it does what those gangs might initially stood for, they don't stand for no more. And we have to start reaching out to our children before the OGs in the neighborhood, because the OGs want them selling the rock now. I mean, the new OGs at least. That's what they have them doing. We have to teach them a new message. You know, the attire for the day isn't, well, it used to be baggy jeans, but now it's the tightest ones you can find. That's thugging. But, you know, we have to change the attire of what they need to look like. We need to change how they speak. You know, it's not what up, yo. You know, it's like, you know, hey, how you doing today, sir? You know, you can still be cool, have a little swag to you, and at the same time, you know, be intelligent about who you are and still be down for your culture. So I like the fact that we was able to touch on so many of those things. There's a lot of stuff going on in our community. I think it's going to be a continued conversation about violence in the community, because I know we talked more so on police violence. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, like at times it seems like the police is the biggest gang out there. I mean, especially there's a video in California just recently where they pull some out their car and it's like 50 dudes. Like now, that's an exaggeration, but realistically, it's like 11 guys thumping on this cat, and it's like it took like 2 of y'all to subdue him. It didn't take the whole like SWAT team dumping down on him. At least they didn't dump bullets into his chest, but it's like you know, over aggressive. So you know. Anyways, we're running overtime, so we got to get ready to cut. Of course, Tay, tell them where they can find us and follow us.
Yeah, definitely. You guys can follow us on IG at The Nitty Gritty Show. Also on Twitter at TBJ_Nitty Gritty. And also on Facebook, you can like our Facebook page, The Nitty Gritty Show.
Awesome. All right. And then, Tony, tell them where they can follow you at real quick.
They can follow me at the Gentleman Society. It's a Gentleman SOC on Facebook. And that's pretty much all I have as for social media.
That's what's up. So, hey, it's been another great show. I'm Jay DeCosta.
I'm your girl, Katniss.
I'm Tay Jordan.
It's the Nitty Gritty Show.
Bye.
We out. Peace.
That was great.